Hello and welcome to this presentation on working through tensions in supervision, and we'll be looking at differing views of a person's ability. I'm Anita Volkett and I'll be speaking to you today, and this presentation was put together in conjunction with Dr. Dancer and Dr. Stephanie Tempest, my colleagues. Thank you. In this presentation we'll be talking about supervision and tensions, and we'll be looking at ways of doing effective positive supervision using the appreciative inquiry cycle. The specific tension we'll focus on is differing views of a person's ability, and we'll offer a few examples of working through this tension. We'll offer you some reflections, a summary, and some practical resources. Supervision and tensions. Supervision is a continuous part of our careers, and as such, tensions are likely to arise. Taking a strengths-based perspective can be really helpful when navigating through tensions. There are three common tensions that we'll explore. In this particular presentation, we're looking at the differences in perceived or actual abilities and capabilities between supervisor and supervisee. So when perhaps the supervisor has a different perspective to the supervisee, or perhaps when there's been feedback from those external to the supervision arrangement about performance. In this presentation, we'll be exploring a way of doing effective supervision. This is the appreciative inquiry cycle, which is a 5-step cycle. We begin by defining the specific situation or context that we want to address, understand better, and perhaps change. We begin by discovering, so a phase of discovery. What information do we need to gather to understand the current situation? What are the key factors, the strengths, the challenges that influence the current state? Then we move into the dream phase. How would we envisage the ideal situation or desired outcome? What would it look like if everything was working optimally? Then we move into the design phase, phase 4. What specific actions and steps can we take to move from the current state to the ideal state? What strategies, resources, or changes are necessary to achieve the desired outcome? And then we deliver. How can we plan and organise the implementation of these actions? What commitments, what supports do we need to ensure that we can put them in place? When people over or underestimate their own abilities, this can create tensions because they are perceiving their abilities differently from external evaluators, such as supervisors or colleagues. It's not necessary for everyone to share the same view, but significant discrepancies can cause issues around a person's job performance, around their career, around their workplace relationships. Supervisors may attempt to address this by guiding a discussion, gently steering their supervisee or themselves to a point where they can talk about some of these discrepancies. However, it's really important that supervisors use this strategy intentionally and self-reflect upon it, particularly around issues like power, to ensure that this steering isn't motivated by perhaps a discomfort for talking about some issues or leads to an unhelpful outcome. Direct confrontation also may not be effective in addressing this kind of issue and other aspects of a supervisee's behaviour actually. It can be a strategy to confront, but it does carry a risk of damaging relationships and causing supervisees to resist change, and that makes change more challenging to achieve in the long term. Kojikaru in 2010 found that an appreciative approach focusing on possibilities rather than the current state actually led to profound changes. So let's look at an example. In a community healthcare setting, Sanvi is assigned as the supervisor for Bayo, a new graduate. Bayo joins the organisation with high confidence and often overestimates their skills and knowledge. Recognising the potential challenges from this, Sanvi adopts an appreciative strengths-based approach to guide Bayo's development. And during their first meeting, Sanvi creates a safe, supportive space for open conversation. She establishes a rapport with Bao, acknowledges their enthusiasm and eagerness, and Sanvi takes the opportunity to gain some insight and understand Bao's self-perception and understanding of their abilities. So stage 1 of the appreciative inquiry cycle is define. So define what's happening now. And during the conversation, it becomes evident that Bao overestimates their capabilities, primarily due to their limited exposure to real-world healthcare scenarios. Sanvi decides to address this by exploring Bao's strengths and building a foundation of self-awareness. So stage 2, discover. What's working well? What are the strengths and capabilities? So Sanvi and Bao discuss cases or situations where Bao felt confident and performed well. That could have been even in previous university placements. Through reflective questioning, Sanvi helps Bao identify the strengths and the skills that contribute to their success in those instances. And they celebrate these achievements, emphasising the value that Bao brings to the team. Sanvi uses gentle guidance and encourages the conversation to move towards situations where Bao might have encountered challenges or experienced areas that they needed to improve in. Together, they examine those instances with a curious and growth-oriented mindset. Sanvi encourages Bao to reflect on what could have been done differently or what additional skills or knowledge could have been beneficial. Step 3, dream about the potential for change. Through this reflective conversation, Bao begins to recognise the gaps in their abilities and acknowledge that there's room for growth and development. And together, Sanvi and Bao discuss what they would notice that was different if the situation was ideal. Sanvi also supports Bao to think about who they admire and respect and the characteristics of that person they might like to develop. Step 4 is design. Sanvi and Bao collectively and collaboratively create a development plan to enhance Bao's skills and knowledge. They set goals and establish a timeline for achieving them. Sanvi encourages Bao to actively seek feedback from colleagues and from people accessing the service and use those insights as valuable learning opportunities. Sanvi supports Bao by providing resources, suggesting training opportunities, and connecting them with experienced colleagues who can serve as mentors. Stage 5, the final stage, is deliver on the plan. Sanvi maintains regular check-ins with Bao to assess their progress. They review cases, and Bao has the opportunity to review cases that apply newly acquired knowledge and skills, celebrating their achievement, addressing areas that require further attention. Sanvi provides ongoing guidance, helping Bao navigate challenging situations with humility and a commitment to continuous improvement. Through Sanvi's appreciative strengths-based approach, Bao's overestimation of their abilities transforms into a balanced self-assessment. With continued support and guidance, Bao becomes a competent and confident health professional who contributes effectively to the team. So now please read the illustrative example of Pinshu and Kennedy, where an appreciative inquiry cycle is used to work through the tension of a supervisee overestimating their abilities. You'll find that in our book, Supervision for Occupational Therapy, Chapter 8, boxes 811 and 812, pages 186 to 188. So we'd just like to focus on some additional strategies to work through tensions in supervision, and these are around embracing diversity and inclusivity. Diversity is a really crucial consideration because it affects how we perceive other people's abilities. It also plays a significant role in addressing perceptions of things like an over or underestimation of abilities. When we make reasonable adjustments in the workplace, this fosters an environment where everyone can contribute to their full potential. Continuing our theme of embracing inclusion and diversity, what are some common areas of accommodation in the workplace? So they might be things like modifying rules, policies, practices, such as more flexible working approaches, offering additional supervision sessions, offering the ability for people to check in and ask questions and clarifications during the day, making adjustments to scheduling, restructuring jobs and tasks within the workplace. It might be around the removal of barriers such as architectural, communication or transport barriers, workstations, using multiple or different communication strategies, looking at building access and parking. It might be working with attitudes of others, such as a workplace that promotes positive attitudes and social inclusion, policies that are inclusive, options for people to undertake mediation, and a commitment to fair performance evaluations, as well as further education. And it might be about auxiliary aids such as dyslexia-friendly software, organisational aids, hearing loops, things like that. So we'll just spend a few minutes considering the following questions as a reflective activity. So have a think about what your initial thoughts and feelings are after reading the illustrative story. Have you had a similar experience from your own professional life as either or both supervisor or supervisee? If you have, you might want to consider your own story and even write it out. Would an appreciative, strengths-based approach have made a difference to how your own experience played out? You might want to apply the 5 steps to your own story if you've written it out. And if so, what might have been different? So in summary, perceiving abilities differently from others can create tensions, particularly in the supervisory relationship. Significant discrepancies can impact job, career, and workplace relationships. A gentle steering approach by supervisors can guide discussions towards beneficial outcomes, but you need to use that intentionally and with self-reflection. Direct confrontation might not be effective and can damage relationships, making change more challenging. An appreciative, strengths-based approach focusing on possibilities can lead to profound changes in difficult situations. Diversity in the workplace influences how people perceive ability. Inclusivity and diversity are crucial in addressing perception of abilities, and making reasonable adjustments in the workplace practices promotes an environment where everyone can contribute fully. You can find a range of practical resources at the following web links, the podcasts at the Spotify link on this slide, and please join our conversation at #3CSupervision. Thank you so much for listening and participating in this presentation today.